Part 7. The Creators of Universes. Conversation with Lucifer. ELENA SIDELNIKOVA. When reading channeled messages, remember, no external information is 100% reliable. Listen first and foremost to yourself. All information resides within each of us. Tell me about life and death. Life is the existence of the spirit in its various manifestations. And thus, life is infinite, just as the spirit is infinite. What is the spirit? Is it God? Is it the Absolute? What is God to you? It is the one who created everything, and I am a part of it. I am the absolute source of the creation of the universe. It is incomprehensible to us as a separate entity, because we are all merely its parts and reflections. It is a certain energy, light, or potential that has always existed and always will, and we are all modifications of this energy, this light, and the unfolding of this potential. What you in Eastern philosophies call the Tao, this eternal source of everything remains in a static state until a certain movement arises within it, a change in the configuration of its essence and properties. Where does this movement come from? This movement arises as a result and response to a certain impulse that triggers motion, development, and the unfolding of potential. Are you talking about the Big Bang, which started the expansion of the universe? Yes, but where does this impulse come from? Who initiates it? This is the mystery of the universe, inaccessible to our understanding. Since everything within and around us is this singular source and nothing else, the impulse itself must originate from this source. In any case, it exists, and this impulse is the beginning of all beginnings, the start of all creations and changes. It is the creation of an absolute essence, of which we are a part. In this sense, since it is from this impulse that the first push of creation arises, it is the one who created everything, and we are all a part of it. This is the primordial God. As a result of this impulse, a part of this source separated from it, and the first division occurred, God and the separated part of God. But for development to continue, this part of God needed to interact with something. At first, this part interacted with the primordial God himself. And this continued for a long time. But the part could not comprehend God, even though it was a part of him, just as a drop of the ocean cannot comprehend the ocean. And this part gave birth to what you call loneliness, the desire to know something similar to itself. And then, possessing the qualities of God, this part created within itself two more parts in its own image and likeness, so that it could know them as similar to itself, and so that they could know each other. Now these two parts could know what was similar to them through external knowledge, and the primordial God through internal knowledge, and this was a new experience of knowing, and this continued for a long time. Then these two parts created their own parts, and everything repeated, and so on to infinity. This is how the process of creation and expansion of God through his parts began, and it continues to this day. The expansion of the universe and the Big Bangs are also part of this process of the development of the primordial God. But those first creators of their own parts were also manifested and named by you as gods, since they were also the ones who created the worlds of those they created, and they also created these worlds from themselves. And in this sense, for every creation, God, the one who created everything and of whom they are a part, was their creator. And since this process is continuous, each of you is also God for all the creations you create. It sounds like cell division. Yes, everything is similar. But why is the process paired? Did the world become dual from the beginning? No, duality is simply a filter of perception. Just as you can only see within a certain spectrum, your perception currently occurs through the filters of duality. More precisely, your perceiving apparatus is tuned to sort all incoming impulses into two polar groups of perception. When these filters are removed, you will be able to perceive a broader spectrum of classifications of perceptions. The process of creation was initially paired because for the stability of the system, it was duplicated from the start. Just like in a computer, you change a file, but it is already saved in its original form so that the previously created properties do not change unpredictably. Who and when will remove these filters of duality? You will, when you choose to do so. I am choosing now. No, choice is not entirely your desire. It is a formed structure that begins to activate in space and change it according to your choice. Right now, you are not ready to perceive this, but gradually, various forms of existence are being introduced into your field of perception. For example, there are more than 2 forms of existence of matter. Previously, you did not know about the existence of such a form as ether, or what a vacuum is, and so on. Earlier, you did not know about the existence of the microcosmos, and so on. Who is introducing these? This happens in different ways. Periodically, those with a strong memory of creation and those with expanded perception are born in your world. It is they who capture information about the structure of the world and try to comprehend it. As a result, your scientific discoveries are born, which change the perception of all humanity. You said that each of us is also God for all the creations we create. Who do we create? What creations? Various ones. Someday you will have to see and perceive everything you have created. But I created unconsciously. Is that still creation? How could I create someone if I didn't intend to, if I didn't know I could create? The knowledge of creation lies deep within your essence, as it is the essence of God, and all the mechanisms of creation are there too. We draw an analogy with a computer. You don't think about how this text is typed and stored by the machine, do you? For you, it's an unconscious process. You also don't think about how the cells of your blood and other organs are created daily. This is also an unconscious process. Are you saying that the cells of my blood are also me? Who else do you think creates them? My body? My organism? Is your body a separate mechanism of creation from you? I don't know, but there is a belief that our bodies are like spacesuits for the spirit, leather bags containing God. Your bodies are also you, the external part of you, your boundaries with God. If the center of the form considers itself above its boundaries, it is mistaken, just as if the boundaries consider themselves more important than the center. If you start considering your bodies more important than your spirit, it creates various disproportions in your development, and from this arise many physical illnesses. But if you start considering your spirit more important than your bodies, this also creates imbalance and gives rise to spiritual illnesses. Wait! All the teachings of the world say that the spirit is primary and everything else is secondary. There is no concept of the spirit and everything else. Everything in existence is a reflection of the divine light through the impulses of the spirit. Your skin and your body are also the divine light, reflected in a dense state and endowed with spirit. You perceive primacy and secondariness from the perspective of the time of creation, when there was the original spirit that became matter. But if you understand that time does not exist and there is only the eternal here and now, then both the spirit and matter existed and were created simultaneously from the beginning. Is my skin spiritualized? Yes, and it is a part of you in every sense. Until you stop considering parts of yourself as something separate, mechanical parts of yourself, you will not come to your unity. Every cell of yours is a degree of reflection of the divine light. It's condensation and endowed with consciousness or spirit. If you realize this and restore your connection with all parts of yourself, which you have long lost, you will not only be able to eliminate all illnesses, but also control the development and growth of your organs and cells. Can I control the growth of my cell? Yes. The most vivid example is hair and nails. Their growth and renewal depend mainly not on the amount of vitamins you take, but on your impulse. All your thoughts, as it were, drip into the piggy bank of certain formations' intentions. And if every morning or evening you think that you lack calcium, your internal mechanisms of creation react literally. They simply reflect your thought, and you really do lack calcium, because the mechanism of its creation in your body pauses in accordance with your thought creation. Then you hear an advertisement about wonderful pills and decide, I lack calcium, I'd better take pills. You yourself stop and start all the mechanisms of creation in your body. The same happens with insulin and many other substances. But how do they appear in my body? Don't I get calcium from food? This is the most acceptable way for you to obtain calcium now. Your perception is tuned to it, and therefore the mechanism of creation is too. But any substance is just a combination of certain particles that are everywhere. By learning to control the formation of these combinations, you can form any substances in your body, even poisons and sleeping pills. And drugs? Yes, you could say that. The process of perception occurs in all bodies. When your spirit feels joy, a hormone of joy enters your physical body. Your scientists have already discovered this, what you call endorphin. But this substance has many varieties, just as there are many degrees of joy. When your spirit falls in love, a hormone of love enters your physical body, and so on. All bodies are interconnected, and every day you create for all bodies simultaneously. You create their parts, you create their life, you create their interaction with the surrounding space and other forms, because space is also a form of the spirit with which you interact. But if everyone can learn to control the growth of their organs, what will happen? Then everyone will start changing them at their discretion, and where will that lead? I will tell you something surprising now. When a child develops in the mother's womb, who is responsible for what it will be like? Why do you periodically have what you call freaks born? We believe that it is the spirit or nature that creates, and the mechanism of this creation is unknown. Whose spirit creates? Do you think that the single divine spirit personally creates every smallest particle and cares that a person has 2 arms and 2 legs? Then there is some program for creating a person with 2 arms and 2 legs, like in a computer. Yes, this is what you call nature. For you, nature is the earth in all its manifestations, and also some essence that creates your physical bodies. But who launches this program, whose impulse of creation? Probably the parents. What about grandparents? What about other people who exist in the field of interaction of the future mother? What about the spirit that incarnates? Doesn't it participate? I don't know. Are you saying that everyone who surrounds the mother and knows about the fact of the future birth participates? Or that the future person creates himself in the mother's womb? The process of creation is collective, but the primary impulse comes from the incarnating spirit itself. You yourself chose to be born in a human form and as a woman, but for you say, it was not essential that your hair be light and your eyes blue. But your relatives in this life were all sure that you should resemble your father just as he himself wanted it, and so it happened. But my parents passed on some diseases to me. Did they want that too? There is hereditary predisposition, isn't there? No, there are the results of joint creations. They passed it on to you because they were afraid they would pass it on to you, and thus participated in the formation of your physical body. There are many cases when a hereditary disease is not actually passed from parents to children, just as there are cases when a child is born completely unlike the parents. They didn't want him to be like them. They did not form a stable intention to get this, or the intention of the incarnating spirit was stronger and more stable. There are cases when a black child is born in a white family, and everyone explains it with genes. You still know very little about genes. A gene is an information file of the computer of creation, a program. A black child is born in a white family. If someone forms this impulse of creation, someone launches the program of creation. So the white parents wanted a black child, knowing how others perceive it. It means that the parents or someone from their environment feared this for some reason, or the spirit itself decided to incarnate in such a form. Why? To gain a certain experience. But it is established that a black father and a white woman always have a dark-skinned child, that the genes of the black race are somehow stronger. How can one program be stronger than another? If they are generally different, what does stronger mean? Faster, more viable. The speed of creation of a human child is practically the same, you know this. This confirms that the same program works, but it's different parts. A black father and a white woman have a black child, because you believe it to be so. But then about all the facts existing in life, and about scientific discoveries, one can say, it is so because it is accepted to be so. Yes, and that's exactly how it is. Well, okay, what other beings besides our children do we create? Each of your stable thought forms gives a result of creation. If you could see what wonderful beings little children create, starting from brownies and ending with colourful clouds and little men. Children create brownies. Not only everyone who believes that such beings exist, but they don't exist. Everything exists that you believe in. Do you believe in a brownie? I believe that there is a common spirit in the house, a common atmosphere, as it were. Whose spirit is it? When you come to an unfamiliar house, do you feel this atmosphere? Yes, often. Those who live in a certain space saturate this space with their creations. They leave, as it were, their energy traces in this space. The air you exhale every second is also a part of your spirit, and it saturates the space around you, and it becomes your home. That is a place where you feel most comfortable and relaxed, where you are nourished by your own energy, just like all your household members. So you create from yourself, from your energy, some formations that begin to develop independently. And these formations are parts of you and created by you from yourself. And this is the process of creation, which is one, as for the primordial God, so for all his creations, a certain single universal program of creation. But you modify this, initially received by you as your self-divine energy, as you yourself too. And what do I create? All your fantasies, fears, desires, imposed perceptions by external information sources. All this exists as your creations. Exists where? Exists within you and outside you. You can create your space of perception by expanding yourself through yourself and thus expanding your world and your boundaries of interaction with this world. Right now, you have no physical boundaries of interaction, say, with other planets. There are mainly mental boundaries. When you expand your world, and therefore your perception, you will be able to have energy boundaries with astral projections of planets. But by further expanding your perception, you will be able to interact with these planets with the help of your physical body. But my physical body cannot exist without an atmosphere and cannot withstand the gravity of certain planets. How do you know that? And do you know everything about your physical body? Why does only a tiny part of your brain participate in your current life activity? Because it contains the mechanisms of creation and perception of everything that exists. You can open in yourself the knowledge and possibilities of cognition of any worlds and planets, in any forms, under any gravitational conditions. Moreover, you have mechanisms for changing any gravitational conditions. Are you talking about the Merkaba? What you call the Merkaba and Merkana are certain programs of spatial perception. You do not move to other spaces. The spaces themselves move to you. You simply open the possibility of their perception. All spaces intersect at certain points and lines. Changing perception allows you to connect to these points and unfold the perception of this space, which is now folded in the start button located in your brain. We believe that perception through the mind is worse than perception through the heart, less complete, distorted. These are just different types of perception of the divine light. It's just that in your mind you have all collectively brought in many jointly accepted distorting programs that you use, like decoders or language translation programs. You can refuse to use these programs. One way to refuse is to question everything. That is, to assume the possibility of multiple solutions and perceptions of various facts and situations that are indisputable for you. Perception through the mind and through the heart are different qualities of wave reception, different receivers of the divine light. But there are those among you whose heart receivers are also quite distorted. These are those who have forgotten what love and joy are, for whom violence is a way of life and perception. If you perceive the world only through the heart or only through the mind, it gives you an incomplete picture of perception. And besides the mind and heart, there are many other types of perception in you. We have argued a lot about free will. Does it exist or not? One position is that we all choose everything in our lives ourselves. The second is that the choice has already been made initially by some higher deity for us, and our task is to accept and reconcile with this choice, initially assuming that all this is done for our good. What is good? The best path of our development. But we have already talked with you that there are no best and worst paths of development. There are simply different directions and movements and changes of your part of the awareness of the divine light. Is the path of development of water or air better? The worst can be conditionally recognized as slowing down development, since stopping development is generally impossible. But since time does not exist, The speed of development is not an essential quality and condition, but it is believed that there are general plans for the development of the universe, and I exist only within their framework and cannot violate them, as this will violate the plan of the universe. Like if my liver cell suddenly decided to become a lung cell or live its own life separately. If a liver cell chooses to become a lung cell, it will become one. Why do you think that you have more freedom of choice than a liver cell? You said that I choose how my cells will develop. I spoke about joint creation. You choose together. But now the process of your interaction, your joint choice, is unconscious for you. For you, it is automatic. For me, are you saying that for a liver cell it is conscious? More than for you, don't your cells give you various signals? For example, pain? But if all my organs work normally, I don't hear signals. Exactly, you don't hear them. But let's return to the universe. Who, in your opinion, determines the plans for its development? God. But for God, everything is a new experience. How can you plan something new if its characteristics and new parameters are unknown? It's the same as offering scientists to invent something new, unknown. Are you saying that there are no plans for the universe? God has no plans. He simply is, and we are parts of him. And as his parts, he accepts any plans for the development of his parts, which is independent creation. Why would he separate parts of himself within himself so that they would act according to his plan? But the system of the universe is quite stable and harmonious. If there is no general plan, how does it exist and not fall apart? Everything interacts and finds ways of interaction, since there is no other way. You cannot destroy life in the universe itself. You cannot make the absence of God in you. You cannot destroy God at all. You cannot make the process of creation in you stop. And thus in this you have no choice. God and the forms of his perception will always exist, or until God decides so. But in everything else, it is you who choose how and what to create, whether to create according to existing templates and programs of creation, or to create your own program of creation and your own templates of creation. Right now, you are creating this text, which is somewhat different from the general templates of perception of the world, and thus you are creating your world and your boundaries of interaction with other forms of perception of the divine light. Wait, but I cannot create everything and everyone. If I am a part of someone, can I choose something different from what I am a part of? Let's imagine an infinite matryoshka doll, for simplicity. Suppose you are the smallest matryoshka, although infinity exists in all directions. You can create within yourself and create another part inside yourself, or parts interact with the matryoshka that is outside you. You cannot interact with the largest matryoshka, at least not directly. You can interact with it indirectly through a certain number of other forms matryoshkas, transmitting your impulses of creation through them. And thus, your freedom is in the zone of your internal creation. And outside of you, you create within the framework of interaction with the matryoshka communicating with you. And if the small matryoshka is you yourself, then all the others are the forms of your perception of the world, the boundaries of your reality. But at a certain point, you realize that beyond the boundaries of you as a small matryoshka, there is a space of perception, and you are one with it. You begin to decompress your form to interact with this space. Since you can only create within yourself, and this is a certain limitation of free will, you cannot create outside your space. but you can expand your boundaries, expand your internal space, and you can begin to merge with the external space in relation to you and unite with it in your creation. And at a certain stage of this merging, you realize that the space with which you are merging is also you, in the sense that your small matryoshka was created from it. And then you are free to choose to remain a separate matryoshka or to eliminate your boundaries and merge into a larger matryoshka, or to remain an independent matryoshka and expand yourself through your internal space and creations within yourself, and so on to infinity in both directions. Because by disidentifying with your matryoshka, you discover yourself again as a matryoshka, only a larger one, and the process repeats. Are you talking about the development of human bodies? I am talking about the process of the descent and ascent of the spirit. And matryoshkas are a very primitive representation, since the process is not only infinite, but also multidimensional. That is, infinitely dimensional. It turns out that I always act within certain frameworks. Yes, until you become the creator of these frameworks. What does that mean? It means that the true gift of love of each of its parts, made by the primordial God, is that each of us can become an independent creator not only of the forms of our world, but also of the laws of development of our world, to build our own universe. How is that possible? Is it when he unfolds all the matryoshkas and reunites with the primordial God? It is when he creates within himself his own universe and the laws of its existence. In each of you lies the potential of the creators of universes. But if that's the case, then everyone can create who knows what. Many do. You just haven't encountered these worlds and universes yet, but echoes of their existence are in your memory and in the information coming to humanity. You mean the hierarchy of darkness? And that too, although the hierarchy of darkness is part of the world of some of you. I mean the multiple universes that exist. There are countless numbers of them, just as there are countless creators of them.